vol. Realized vol has continued to rise on Bitcoin. 10-day realized got back up to around 52.5. Spot's been chopping around violently, but still remains in that range of 27 to 30K. Ethereum 10-day realized has been falling though, finished down at around 50. So flip back the other way again, BTC over. Implied vols were diverging. BTC implied caught a bid, whereas Ethereum came down. So BTC front month was up around 5 points. Ethereum 1 month was down around 5 points. So reasonably large divergence there between what those vols are doing. As suspected, earning carry has been a tough gig this week. BTC carry flipping to slightly negative. Ethereum remains near zero as it was last week. So really not been a week for the gamma shorts, unless you literally sold your gamma and didn't look at the screen for a whole week and you got lucky because we've been chopping around and ending nowhere. But most gamma players do actually put some delta hedges on when you get a 5% move in an asset. And so they might have been chopped around this week quite badly. Okay, and then FOMC on Wednesday, as we've said, likely to be the next catalyst. If it can jolt the dollar out of the range, if it can cause a bit of rates volatility, which we have seen in the last 2 days, actually. We saw yields popping on ISM prices paid yesterday, and then we had some jolts data out today. We had some weaker factory orders, and we've seen a complete reversal in rates. So rates are certainly starting to show that they might want to move again. And if that happens, expect some cross-asset volatility. All right, term structure. We saw flattening of the Bitcoin term structure. So you can see here we had a pop in the front end. That's there, pop. And then we had a fall in the back end. So the curve flattening from both ends, which is quite unusual, to be honest. So the pivot level is around this 50-day expiry here. Ethereum term structure, on the other hand, just kind of shifting lower, led by the back, though. Again, quite interesting. Front end holding up slightly better because the realized hasn't completely tanked. But that back end really starting to see some selling pressure. The vol spread, as a result, has shifted down pretty violently. So you can see it's gone pretty much to zero again across the entire set of expiries. So that resurgence in Ethereum volatility that we were looking for was very short-lived. And you can see from the BTC, the ETH BTC spot spread, that broke down below a key support, pretty much leaves it in no man's land. So explains why the vol market is kind of giving up on Ethereum vol right now. And it's hard to see this spread working from here on the upside, at least, given the dominance of BTC and that really being the catalyst for bullishness in crypto right now. So whilst if we do break down below, say, 1800 and risk assets are breaking down at the same time, we may see Ethereum vol outperform, but on the downside move, we're not so convinced that's going to happen on the upside. Now, another reason why we say that is because the SKEW surface is starting to say the same thing. So if we look here at SKEW, and this is generally the case, it has been for a while, Ethereum put SKEW is greater than Bitcoin SKEW. So front-end Bitcoin SKEW remains very volatile, chasing spot in both directions. Long-end SKEW has been more stable and has been in a call premium by about 1 to 2 vol points. BTC SKEW term structure has got the put premium for weekly puts, and then it's neutral for monthly, and then at the back end it goes into call. So it's kind of, telling a different story. It's basically reflecting near-term caution for Bitcoin and long-term optimism. Now, the same can't be said for Ethereum SKEW because it's more uniform across the whole surface for puts. So it puts across the whole curve, which basically says that option players see more downside risk due to things like crypto regulation, no safe haven bid like what Bitcoin's got in terms of digital gold. Those are the reasons why Ethereum downside trades at a slight premium. Markets are pricing in that if Ethereum vol does come back to life, it will happen on the downside, whereas in the bullish scenario, BTC is likely to be the leader and the dominance will continue. That is my take on what the SKEW surfaces between the two are saying. And I still think there's room to go. I still think Ethereum downside could catch much more of a bid if we do start to see it recouple with risk assets. Okay, it might be a case of Ethereum's doing 3 times what Nasdaq does, but Bitcoin's doing half that because there's this safe haven bid to Bitcoin that prevents it from selling off so hard. Okay, that's just what I anticipate if markets do turn sour. All right, dashboards are in buy call territory, but personally, I'm not rushing out to buy calls here. I think we are at risk of seeing some supports broken. I think net liquidity is turning lower from a bunch of guys who are looking at it. Darius Dale's been talking about it for a while. Now Andreas Steno Larson's talking about liquidity rolling over. So if if these assets do care as much about liquidity as we think they do, we probably want to be careful of a downside break rather than buying the bottom of the range right now, especially in Ethereum. Okay. Looking at flows, lower than average volumes last week. They might pick up this week with FOMC, but we did see selling of May to June puts. We saw some weekly at the monies and strangles being sold as kind of short gamma replenishing after expiry. And the market's remaining in the range, so people kind of comfortable that we are not breaking just yet. So they've got the appetite to sell vol. Now, upside was bought, however, directionally. We saw outright calls being bought in 26th of May. We saw tight call spreads being bought in the 12th of May expiries on Bitcoin. And then we saw some hedging flows on the 30th of June, expiry 27K, 33K risk reversals. So those were the main clips that we saw go up in BTC. Looking over to Ethereum, still mainly bullish flow despite spot underperforming, which I thought was interesting. The largest clips of note were outright calls being bought on the 2000 strike across a bunch of expiries, early May and end of June. Call spreads were also bought in regular May, end of May, 100-point wide call spreads. Basically, sorry, that was on the 19 2000s. And then the 30th of June, 500-point wide call spread, 2,500, 3,000 strikes. We saw some bullish risk reversals in Ethereum as well. Someone fading that skew and actually thinking it's a way to get long. Personally, I don't like that trade very much. I think that's dangerous. And then some put hedges were also bought on 5th of May, 1,800 puts, and 30th of June, 1,500 puts. Those were your main flows on Ethereum. Okay, looking at gamma positioning. Dealer gamma shorts did expire last week on Bitcoin. Remember, we had that big 28K strike. The street was short, and that kind of did lead to quite a lot of chop last week, as we predicted. The positioning has become far more neutral now. So you can see here, 25th of April, when we last spoke to you, we were in quite negative gamma. We spiked higher. We went back down. We spiked up again. This was all before expiry. Expiry happened here. And then since then, we've been much more stable around the 0 level in gamma. Looking at the strikes, we can see the street seems to be long 28 to 29K strikes, very short on the upside still, and slightly short on the downside around that 27 area for Friday. Okay, looks a slightly different picture in Ethereum. Positioning briefly went very negative. A spot did pop above that 1900 area last week. So that was here just before expiry. But obviously after expiry, it's gone back to neutral and actually gone positive again. You can see the main positive strikes are coming at 1800, 1900 here. So it does look like the street is well supplied with Ethereum vol. We would need to break above 2000 before we went into short territory, and then maybe some action can happen again. But for now, we think that's a pretty low delta outcome at the minute, and we don't really see where the news flow is going to come from. There's going to be crypto. There's going to be Ethereum specific to trigger a load of buying there. Okay. Looking at what I've been up to. Okay, that is it for this week's Crypto Weekly rundown. Thanks a lot for listening as always, and ask me any questions on Discord about this stuff. I'll catch you all next week.